If you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? Yo. His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud, he opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's choking how? Everybody's choking now. The clock's run out, time's up, over, loud. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes rabbit. He choke. He's so mad, but he won't give up. Daddies, he know he won't have it. He knows his whole back to these ropes. It don't matter, he's dope. He knows that, but he's broke. He's so stacked that he knows when he goes back to the mobile home, that's when it's back to the lab again, yo. This old rhapsody better go back to this moment and hope it don't pass him.
Listen, we can talk about the flag, but let's talk about the team. Wait.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM. Right here on DSM Media. We're live, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Like, share, retweet, and make sure you hit the thumbs up and comments over on the YouTube page. Also, make sure you click that subscribe button. We're brought to you here at Trending in the AM by nobody. Just our hard-earned work right here. Me, myself, Phil Stifle at Bearded Knowledge, and my main man, Jason Voorhees at Mustang3651. We've got the I have no sponsor hotline. So if you want to sponsor the show, make sure you hit us up on social media. And let us bring your product, your brand, and your name to everybody out there. You know, got lots of people that tune in every morning. Good morning, Jim. How you doing this morning? Thanks for checking in. Jason, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great, man. I had a long week at work so far, and it was music to my ears when I heard the notification on my phone, and I happened to look down and see that Eagles got Bradberry.
Yeah.
I mean, I obviously wanted the guy. I know that you did too. I mean, yeah, I hear some people saying, "Oh, they overpaid." Come on, dude. They needed a cornerback too.
So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to get into this Eagles breaking news. James Bradberry signing with the Eagles, another piece, and we'll talk Phillies at the end of the show, but it almost feels like today should be titled Overreaction Monday. Because we added one more piece, James Bradberry, a former Pro Bowl quarterback, 1 year, $10 million deal. I think it's 7.5 guaranteed, then a couple million in incentives. And now all of a sudden, it's time. I spoke yesterday a little bit, Jason, on the Eagles, because I think there's people out there that purposely try to trigger Eagles fans. And there's somebody from some Sports Illustrated site put out his predictions for all the divisions, and he had the Eagles going 6-11, finishing last place in the division. And I started talking about it, and then as I started talking, the Eagles were on the ESPN Power Rankings, only ranked as the 16th best team, and maybe we're a little bit homerish because we're Eagles fans, but you know, I really think we need to stop getting upset about, like last year when Jalen Hurts wasn't on the top 40 quarterback list, but Kellen Mond was. You know, things like that. That was one of the CBS guys put that out there. I just think people like to trigger us Eagles fans, and you know, I think it's a pain in the ass kind of thing, and it works. It works, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. There's trolls out there, and a lot of, you know, let's face it too. Eagles Twitter is extremely up and down. I mean, there's always like, you know, there's different extremes. There's different levels of you know, trying to think of the word, different levels of energy. You know, there's some people that are very positive on the team all the time. There's people that are always very negative. Like there's different like variations. So it's pretty easy to kind of, if you're a troll, we're an easy target. We're an easy target. Let's face it. Like, because people, you know, we're going to get triggered. But, you know, for anybody to say a prediction like that, they obviously
they're looking for
either they are a troll or they're an idiot.
Well, see, the thing is, like, I like to say, like, trolls are people that don't hide behind, their real profile picture or, using burner accounts or whatever. So a lot of things that we're talking about here, they're real legit guys. I mean, this guy writes for Sports Illustrated. Last year, I think it was Chris Sims that put Kellen Mond above Jalen Hurts. These are major, outlets.
Well, okay, so let's rephrase it.
They're trying to be shock jocks, exactly.
Maybe they're not trolls, but they're definitely trying to be the next hot take guy, and they're definitely trying to push the envelope. And
the way to do it is to target the Philadelphia fan base.
Yeah, because of exactly what I said, like because we're so volatile. Like sometimes, like there's It's not like I'm trying to think of a franchise that it's not like the Houston Texans franchise. Like nobody there is going to get upset if somebody says, whatever.
Right.
They just don't give a shit. Eagles fans care. It's not a mistake that, we always get lumped in, these lists at the top as far as a fan base. And not just the Eagles, Philadelphia in general in sports, because we have 4 teams. We have 4 major sports teams. And, they're not always that good. But, our fan base, we're realists. We love hard play. We love guys that give a shit. That's why, we get frustrated when teams like the Sixers, collapse in the playoffs, because it's like we know what our teams are capable of, and we're honest. Obviously, I don't think a lot of people thought that the Sixers were necessarily going to win the NBA championship, but we all thought that this team would perform better than they did, obviously, down the stretch. And that's a fact. So we're definitely easy targets. We're easy to kind of, get under our skin. And what other better way to do it than by saying the Eagles are going to go 6-10? But like I said, I think
don't forget about Game 17. We're not forfeiting that game.
Yeah, I don't think the guy's just a hot take specialist. I just think he's an idiot. I think he hasn't really looked at what Howie has done this offseason. Let's go down the list of signings.
Well, let's just go with the Bradberry one now, because I want to talk about that, and then we can talk about the Eagles as a whole, because I do want to really address them, all the moves as a whole, to talk about. The question of the show is, are they legit contenders? And I want to get to all that, but we really should spend some time just talking about the most recent one, Bradberry. Now, I know you're excited. I said I'm kind of excited, but I want to know, like, why do people think James Bradberry is going to make that much of a difference? Because honestly, I don't watch cornerback play. I don't know if you have, but I'm looking at his stats, and I pulled up 3 people. I pulled up James Bradberry, our number 1 cornerback Darius Slay, and the guy Bradberry's replacing in Steven Nelson. And I'm comparing these numbers, and just on paper, is he much better than Steven Nelson?
I don't look at
I'm trying to get, like, I'm excited because he's better than what we were going to go with Zach McPherson or Tay Gowan or any of these 6th-round picks. But is he that much better to be that excited about?
I absolutely think he is. I think he fits our system perfectly. Like, he's the perfect fit for this system. You have Darius Slay on the other side, who's, basically shut down cornerback. But obviously last year we saw Darius Slay really, also was a playmaker. Not that he wasn't, obviously they called him Big Play Slay. He has that nickname. That's what he does. He makes big plays. James Bradberry's more of, your guy. He's kind of a quiet guy. He doesn't exactly. Scotty's right on. You're not going to have necessarily those big numbers. It's what you do against wide receivers, other teams' best guys. And that's what he does well. So you add that to a guy like Slay who does the same thing. And now you have yourself as a unit, probably one of the best cornerback units we've had. I don't want to go back to Lito Shepherd and Sheldon Brown. But I mean, that combo was, they weren't always putting up, 20 interceptions, but they got the job done. They were guys that, were able to play well against, all types of, styles and all types of offenses. So I think James Bradberry puts him over the top. I think you needed that. I'm not saying they're a Super Bowl contender, but they're definitely going to be.
I started looking at, I brought up their like Pro Football Reference, stats. Okay. And they put it, so Darius Slay, obviously, going past the interception tackles, Darius Slay, 58% of passes last year were completed against him. Quarterbacks had a 74.4 rating against Darius Slay last year. Steven Nelson last year was a 66% completion percentage. So much worse. So he was worse than Darius Slay, obviously, and 108 quarterback rating. That's awful, obviously, and that was him going up against the number 2 guys. James Bradberry still gave up a 93 quarterback rating. It was only 62%. So his completion percentage is better than Steven Nelson, not as good as Darius Slay. But that quarterback rating was still pretty high that he was giving up there.
And Phil, who was he playing for again? And who was the other cornerback on the other side? And that was the defense. I mean, you got to look at it's the eye test. It's easy to sit there and just pull up
the eye test.
It's easy to pull up the stats, or especially when it comes to cornerbacks. Like, and we do the same thing with defensive ends, where and I'm guilty of it. I'll be like, oh well, that guy didn't have any sacks. And someone will come in and be like, dude, have you watched the guy play? And my answer is, no, you're right, I haven't. And then you go back and you kind of look at the tape and you're like, okay, we didn't have sacks, but he was always around the cornerback or always around the quarterback. And he was always, when he wasn't getting sacks, he was putting pressure on the guy and he was making him, throw the ball too quick or whatever. So you got to look at those areas of the game as well, not just the stats. And I think that's where a lot of people are going to kind of falsely look at Bradberry and say, oh, well, is this really a good signing?
Right.
You got to realize.
Question it totally. I'm just trying to.
No, Bill, I get it. And that's our job. That's what we do well.
And I would say that's also the fact that he's coming from the Giants. Look, I don't know who James Bradberry, the person, is. But, man, that team had an awful culture, an awful locker room. Hopefully he's a strong enough person that atmosphere that he came from doesn't stick with him.
I mean, I saw, and I'm not sure of the ESPN reporter. It's a female reporter. I saw her tweet out yesterday. She's the one, I think the one that was involved with the Alshon Jeffrey thing. I can't remember her name. Any idea?
The Josina Anderson?
Yeah. So I saw her tweet out that
I think she's not yet anymore.
That Bradberry just contacted her, and he's very happy. And his first statement that he made is that this system he fits this system perfectly. That was his exact statement to her. So he obviously, I'm sure he could have probably got more money somewhere else. I think he looked at this team as being the best fit, not only for what he does well, but a team on the rise. He's excited to come here. And that's important. And you mentioned that how many shows ago that all of a sudden, here's a team that a lot of people were saying no one wanted to come to. And now, once again, we have a guy that was highly coveted around the league, when he became available. Right. And he chose the Eagles.
Yeah, there's a report that he had 11 teams interested in him. And he whittled it down to 3, then chose the Eagles. So that kind of leads into the question today, are the Eagles legit contenders? A guy like James Bradberry that had a dozen teams looking at him. A dozen teams. He chose the Eagles. He's 28. He's still got time for one big contract. Well, one bigger multi-year contract. This is a year, last year we signed a lot of prove-it guys. Steven Nelson, 1-year deals, cheap. Eric Wilson, Anthony Harris. And these guys didn't really, they never were able to take their game to the next level and get bigger contracts. But now this year, we got Kazir White. We've got, Bradberry, better 1-year guys that are willing to come here on a one-year deal because they see the potential of this team. So is this team legitimately a contender? And when you use the contender, and this is to George, because George, I know if George was watching, he would say it, or if he watches it later, he'll text me it and say, well, what do you mean by contender? I mean everything. I mean, are they a legit contender in the NFC East? Are they a legit contender to make a run to the NFC Championship game? Are they legitimately a Super Bowl contender in the NFC? I think they're all questions that can be answered or asked. And, yes, we might have a little overreaction Monday answer in us, but I think they're legit questions at this point.
I think
he's got a 22.6% missed tackle rate. That would be, it was 2 years ago, but, that's absolutely, or 2021. That's absolutely concerning to me. Absolutely. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. So, I mean, I think they're absolutely contenders. I mean, my definition of a contender, I mean, are they going to contend for a Super Bowl? I don't think necessarily. I think they'll be a top 5 NFC team, and that's pretty good. That's a huge improvement. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, man. I'm listening to you.
Oh, I thought I saw your mouth move and I didn't hear anything, so I thought you were talking. Yeah, I think they're a top 5 NFC team. I think they're a team that definitely can make some noise. I think, to me, the ultimate question still remains: how much success will Jalen Hurts have, and how much will he improve? And I think, as we all agree, I mean, I think 90% of us agree, there's absolutely no excuse now for Jalen Hurts to not succeed. He has all the weapons now. He has guys that, make his job easier. It makes it easier for him to be better.
Right.
I'm not necessarily saying that I believe that he's going to make a huge jump to the point where he's a Pro Bowler. But what I will say is I think it's going to be hard not to show improvement when you add A.J. Brown. You have a second-year Devonta Smith. I think Dallas Goedert, to me, I remember Zach Ertz in years – I think this is Goddard's 4th year, correct? Right or wrong? I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's his 5th year.
Goddard was part of the Fanatics year, so that was 2018 or 19, yeah.
So it's his 4th year. I remember Zach Ertz in year 4. He took that huge jump where he became, one of the upper echelon guys. Not that Goddard already hasn't kind of established himself in that conversation, but I still see signs of, we haven't seen Goddard really, be dominant to the point where I could actually foresee Dallas Goedert having a 1,000-yard season this year. Now, that may be hard with all the targets to go around and also with the fact that everyone says Jalen's so inaccurate. But I think there's going to be so much room over that middle, and Dallas is going to just be dominant because A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith can both run every single route on the tree. They're capable. They're not just guys that are one and done or, we talk about some wide receivers that aren't good fits. They both can run multiple routes, and they're both good at doing it. Obviously, A.J. Brown's more of the contested catch type guy than Devonta Smith, but we've seen Devonta Smith make the contested catches. I mean, last year, that one play comes to mind where, Jalen threw that rocket, and it was Smith made that huge play. I'm really sold on this team, dude. I mean, I think their offense is going to be sneaky great. Honestly, I see all kinds of. They have speed now. You got AJ and Smith, and then listen. We always a lot of people are down on Miles Sanders to the point where they're oh, Miles Sanders just doesn't do it. But when Miles Sanders is healthy, he is a home run hitter. I mean, we saw flashes last year before he got hurt. I mean, I know he got hurt again, and that's always the question: will he be healthy? But when he's healthy, every single play he could hit a 60-yard run. So we have that. We have the fact that Nick Sirianni now has so many more options. Listen, Zach Pascal, I know when we signed him, like, people were like laughing, but he's like our fourth option now. Like, and Zach Pascal is still young. Like, dude, I'm gushing, and I'm sorry. Maybe you could call it an overreaction, but I'm excited about this team, and I haven't even got to the defense yet. I mean,
so when I look at, can they contend? Yes, I look at the team, and yes, it comes down to whether Jalen Hurts can make use of the talent, whether he could take that next step. But I also look at it when we talk about the word contending. I look around them too. I'm looking at the conference right now. Washington might be, and Dallas. I mean, they didn't really do anything to improve themselves this year. You got the quarterback issue with Carson in Washington. Who knows? Dallas is still Dallas. The Giants still stink. They'll have a better culture, but they still have a bad team. You look at the NFC. You got the Bucs and the Rams. How much longer can Tom Brady really play at that high level? I don't know. But you got to look at them as the best teams. Green Bay, you would think, is a better team. They lost Devontae Adams. We don't know how Aaron Rodgers is going to react to that. They haven't really replaced him. Arizona, they got the Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins issues going on. So what is it? Is it really just Tampa, the Bucs, and maybe Green Bay that we're fighting with for supremacy? So contending for the Super Bowl, yeah, that's not there yet. But are we that far off from being the fourth best team even? Maybe the third best team in the conference? I mean, are you going to say San Francisco, Trey Lance in charge now? They're going to be better? No. Minnesota, are they going to be a contender? Not really. So I look at it from that aspect as well. The teams that we have to rank up against in the conference, how many of them actually scare you that on paper, before we've seen them play one game, are actually better than the Eagles? And I don't think there's that many of them. Maybe two.
I agree. I think you're right, Phil. I think every single year, well, maybe almost every single year, there's always one team that kind of rises up a lot further than you think, and there's always that one team that's it's them that struggles and falls. I think the Eagles could be that team this year in the NFL, that kind of rises up. They have all the talent. It's what they're going to do. I
agree. It comes down to Jalen Hurts, right?
Yeah.
So here's my question. All right, so you just take this team and you take Jalen Hurts off of it, okay? And you just take this team. If you take Jalen Hurts from last year and how he performed, and he performed average, grand scheme of things. He was a rookie. There's, lots of things, lack of talent, no wide receiver, stuff like that. Whatever. You take his performance from last year, and he exactly matches that skill level this year. What kind of a contender are we?
I mean, I think.
And then on the counter, how much better does he have to be? If he's just a small incremental better, maybe he doesn't overthrow a few extra players. Maybe he reads defenses a little bit better. If he's just incrementally better, say he was 18th best quarterback last year and he's the 15th best this year, is that enough? Yeah. You know what I mean? So, I'm asking last year's performance, how would that stack up on this year's team? And how much better does he have to be to really take this team? Because that's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say this team is so much better now that do we even need Jalen Hurts to get, top 10 quarterback good to have success?
Well, you can look at that argument on both sides of the spectrum, because before we made all the moves, before we got A.J. Brown, we were saying that Jalen Hurts was going to have to be extremely better for us to look at him and say, right, he's the guy. Do you have to look at that the same way now? I mean, A.J. Brown, to me, is a needle moving. It's a needle mover. It's not like some guy that you just signed and you said, well, we got A.J. Brown. We're better at wide receiver, but are we that much better? Dude, we're that much better. A.J. Brown, like I said, I know I got assaulted for it. I said he was a top 5 guy. I think that's his ceiling. He's definitely a top 10 wide receiver. I mean, in my mind, and he's only 24 years old.
Right.
Like having that type of player on your team when you had guys that you were throwing to last year, now all of a sudden Devonta Smith doesn't have to be the guy, but yet he can be, because we've seen Devonta Smith when we drafted him. Why do you think you and I were so excited when we got him? Because we know that he realistically was the best wide receiver in that class. I know Jamar Chase was like the bigger name, and I know he had a better season, but he also had Joe Burrow throwing to him, and he had T. Higgins and Bird. He had 3 guys. Like, you can't look at the same and be like, well, yeah. And then I see a lot of people saying, well, Devonta Smith is not as good as Jalen Waddle. Dude, Jalen Waddle had 100 catches and only 20 more yards than Devonta Smith.
Right.
What's more important for a wide receiver, the amount of catches you get or the yards and touchdowns? In my mind, it's the yards and touchdowns all day. I could give 2 shits if somebody has 140 catches. If they have 1,000 yards and 5 touchdowns, what are they doing?
So, I mean, there's a lot of comments.
Quarterbacks throwing the ball like dink and dunk.
And a lot of comments coming in here. Division round, that he needs to do better than 9 games, winning 9 games, but KC's here comment, with no progression, he basically says that this is an 11-win team. So is the talent we've added, A.J. Brown on offense, Nakobe Dean, Jordan Davis in the draft, Bradberry on defense, all the moves that this team has made, Kazir White, whatever it is, are the moves enough to say that we are going to increase our win total by 2 wins if Jalen Hurts? Because I think out of all the comments, let's think Casey saying this is an 11-win team with no progression from Jalen Hurts. Were the offseason moves that Howie Roseman made good enough to account for 2 more wins? And I kind of think it is. I really do.
I mean, everyone benefits from the moves that were made. Jonathan Gannon, a guy that I myself was extremely critical of. I want him to get rid of Jonathan Gannon.
I was saying fire him in week 3 or 4 last year.
I mean, how does he not benefit? He
might
last year. Talk about we talk about Jalen Hurts and how he's going to benefit from the moves that Howie made. I think the guy that's going to benefit the most on this team is Jonathan Gannon, because that defense. There's no way in hell that defense is not better now. All the way around. They're better at cornerback. They're definitely better. I like Steven Nelson, but Bradberry is a step up. Is he that much better? Maybe not, but he's better. Dude, Kazir White, I think, is going extremely under the radar. Like, I looked at Kazir White, that guy could play. Like, I think we got a steal there, and it's a prove it deal, but it's like, okay, if it doesn't work, look at who our linebackers were. And then, oh, by the way, we drafted Nakobe Dean, who I believe will be that quarterback of the team.
I forgot about Hassan Reddick. I didn't even mention Hassan Reddick being added there.
Hassan Reddick. I mean, a guy that can actually rush the passer and get a sack? What is a sack? I mean, I know we brought back Barnett, but, Barnett, as a role player,
Barnett gets a lot of flack, and rightfully so in the city.
I think Barnett as a role player could actually be.
We talked about this. We talked about this when they announced that they brought Dark Barnett back. Maybe you weren't on the show with the day that he was brought back.
No,
we talked about if you take his name off of it and just read his stat line and say, hey, you got this guy, ex-free agent for this much money to add to your defense, everybody would have been happy. But then you add his name to it and the stigma that his name in Philadelphia brings. That's why people don't like him. But in a role, Dark Barnett, he gets after the quarterback. And we talked about this. A lot of his penalties are based off of reputation. They're not. Last year, 2 or 3 of those personal foul calls, they weren't personal fouls. They were, oh, that's Dark Barnett. Yeah, it's a personal foul. And unfortunately, there is that kind of – it's like that in all sports. It's like Joel Embiid gets the benefit of the doubt on a foul call. It's just the way it is. But the defense as a whole is just a defensive improvement. Even if you take A.J. Brown out of the equation, the improvements on defense alone should be on paper worth 2 more wins.
I mean, that's where I'm at. And that's with no progression. Like I said, that's why I believe your statement, your original statement. Can Jalen Hurts just showing a minimal incremental improvement like be enough? And I absolutely believe it can but I actually
think that minimal increment he will fall from the 18th quarter. I'm just using random numbers here. If he was ranked the 18th quarterback last year, adding AJ Brown, it doesn't matter if he still only goes to his first read or whatever. Adding AJ Brown will take him from the 18th best quarterback to the 15th best quarterback, most likely.
No, and you're right. But you're 100% right. I actually believe the opposite. I mean, I believe that he's going to show more than minimal incremental improvement. I think he's going to take I'm not saying, here we go. I got to watch what I say. The trolls will be out. I think he's going to take a huge jump this year. I think he's going to show, and I think fans now are going to start to see that, okay, this guy does have something there, that it's not just, maybe we were just a little wrong on this guy. I'm not saying he's going to be an MVP. I know I joked yesterday.
But I want to talk about that. Look, I like to base things around betting. I'm a bettor. I love to bet, and I'm disappointed because I like to bet every single year the Eagles quarterback to win the MVP. I just do it. It's for fun. I bet $1, $2, whatever. Before the draft, Jalen Hurts was over 60-1 to win the MVP. That's not good odds. After they traded for AJ Brown, his odds fell to 40-1, okay, to win the MVP. And then so many bets have come in that they've had to lower his odds. I think it was last week they lowered it to 18-1, and it's still going down. And when that much, and there's more tickets being placed, and we're not just talking about Philadelphia fans. We're talking big dollar tickets from major professional gamblers that really break down odds and numbers for a living. Like these kind of bets, they don't bet $1, they don't bet $10. They're bet thousands of dollars on an MVP candidate. They're putting tickets in on Jalen Hurts to be the MVP. So when I see that, when I see the professional gamblers, not the Eagles fans just doing it because it's their favorite quarterback. When I see the professional gamblers laying tickets on it, that makes me think that it's not going to be a small incremental improvement. We're going to see some significant strides from him. And I hope so. Everybody knows I want Jalen Hurts. I want him because of his off-the-field intangibles to be successful. Maybe I'm blinded a little bit there. But those gambling tickets going in on him tell me a story. And they tell me the story that he's going to be better this year.
I mean, we're in a position that you really can't lose, because if Jalen Hurts does do that and he does incrementally jump and he's making it, a play for the MVP, then we are so set up for the future. And if not, we're still set up for the future, and we have the ability to try to get the next guy. I mean, whether it's 23 in the draft or whether it's trade for a guy that comes available. Let's face it, every single year anymore, these guys come available. Like, it just seems like every year somebody wants out. I mean, we know Kyler Murray still wants out.
Only negative I'm going to say, you bring up Kyler Murray. The only negative I'll say about that is if Jalen Hurts plays at MVP level, he's up for a contract extension at the end of the season. He's going to want big money. I mean, maybe not Kyler Murray. I mean, what is Kyler Murray asking for? Like $700 million a year or something like that? I mean, it's insane. And what has Kyler Murray done results-wise? Much better than Jalen Hurts.
Not a lot.
Not a lot. I mean, he might have more talent than Jalen Hurts, but talent don't mean squat if you don't get results. Would you rather a quarterback that puts up MVP numbers every single year, but gets 9-8 records every year, or a quarterback that takes your team deep, but is just a game? I'm not saying Jalen Hurts hasn't done anything yet either, but I'm just saying Kyler Murray hasn't done anything more on paper than Jalen Hurts.
I think a lot of times, though, you can look at that as being the situation he's in. I think Kyler Murray, I really believe Kyler Murray is extremely talented as a quarterback. I don't like Cliff Kingsbury's offense. I think he's in the wrong type of offense for the type of player that he is. I think Kyler Murray, if he was in the Eagles offense, would be lights out because I think he's good with that running style. Like they're trying to run that run and shoot type. It's not the run and shoot, but it's like the air raid form, whatever it's called that Cliff Kingsbury runs. I think
run and shoot. Wasn't that Warren Moon's offense nickname?
It was the run and shoot.
Four wide out every play.
Yeah, but Kyler Murray, I think, would succeed in this Eagles offense because it's a running offense. Kyler Murray runs the ball a lot too, just like Jalen Hurts. Kyler Murray is probably on the eye test more talented than Jalen Hurts. I mean, his arm is probably stronger. He's probably a bit more accurate, but I agree. I don't think there's that much of a difference where you could say, well, Jalen Hurts can't get to that level. I just think so many people are blunt. So many people want to believe that Jalen Hurts is better, but it's just a hard time to believe it. But this is the year, dude.
Because KC makes another good point here. It's also about how Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni's got a lot of pressure on him this year. There's no excuses for him. How he incorporates all these. Because George saying either Brown or Smith will, underperform. There's only in a run-heavy offense. There's only so many pass attempts. There's only so many completions. Whose attempts are Brown taken away from, et cetera. Some of them might have a bad season. But, KC saying how Nick incorporates them, because let's be honest, I've said it before, and Nick Sirianni did it a lot last year. There were multiple drives in multiple games where one of Jalen Hurts' weakest throws is the quick slant over the middle. He just can't complete that pass. But yet he kept running it over and over again. Does Nick Sirianni grow as a play caller not to call that play? Does Jalen Hurts grow as a quarterback enough where he can make that play 50% of the time? There's the Nick Sirianni portion of it. We talk about Jonathan Gannon, but Nick Sirianni as a head coach does need to step up, take that next step.
Yeah, I mean, George makes a good point. George always makes good points. I think the one negative that I look at with A.J. Brown, well, there's a few negatives, but because let's face it can't all be positive, so let's get it out there. He does have a couple injuries that he's had. He hasn't really played a full season. I look at that as being one negative. The other negative that I will say about A.J. Brown, I firmly believe that in a passing league, yes, his numbers are going to be somewhat skewed because if you look at it, you can't always say that a guy like his caliber of play didn't benefit from having Derrick Henry as his running back. Like Derrick Henry, has had a couple seasons that were generational seasons, 2,000 yards, almost hit 2,000 yards twice. Now, last year, you take Derrick Henry out of the equation. Now, all of a sudden, A.J. Brown becomes less successful because he was more of he had to do more. So I do look at that as okay, can Miles Sanders and this Eagles running back room have another great year like they did last year? Because collectively, we had one of the best running teams in the league.
Right.
But are they going to always be able to do that is my fear.
The other thing is that they wanted to come out pass heavy last year. They did come out pass heavy. And then Nick Sirianni adjusted to the run heavy. Hurts only averaged 19.33 pass attempts a game last year. Yeah. And, George saying that, how Hurts fares the first few weeks because they are. I agree with you. They all want passing. It's a passing league. We know that. But the thing is this year, compared to last year, we had a pretty difficult schedule to start the season. The easier part of the schedule was in the second half. This year, when you look at the schedule, remember, we got Detroit week 1, Minnesota, Washington, Jacksonville. Got a little bit easier of a schedule to start. Does that maybe having an easier start, maybe they can come out and gain some confidence early that, they can carry the momentum into the later part of the season when, what was it, week 12 starts, week 11 starts that terrible stretch with the Colts, Packers, Tennessee. Maybe if they come out passing early, I mean, Detroit week 1, Detroit did improve their rushing attack with, drafting Aiden Hutchinson, number 2 overall. But overall, Detroit's defense is still very suspect. They're still on the beginning stages of their rebuild there. Is there, a chance that they come out past happy and they're able to gain that confidence against the weaker opponents the first few weeks?
I mean, there's absolutely a chance. There's always a chance.
All right, is there a chance? Is it likely? Is it a good theory to think that way? Because obviously there's always a chance. So you're telling me there's a chance.
Well, we had our good friend Chris Franklin on just last week, and he mentioned that he believes that they will go to a more pass-heavy offense, just by the way that he was seeing things go down at the mini camp, like the formations and stuff like that. I do believe that they will still want to be somewhat balanced, but I do think that adding a guy like AJ, it's hard not to kind of skew yourself more towards the pass, because you now have a guy that, I mean, he's a wide receiver one. I mean, realistically, you have two guys, because Devonta Smith, like I said, I foresee him as being a wide receiver one. Could be wrong. It's only his second year, but the guy, I just think you look at this team. I also believe that it's not just the players that you have, Phil.
Yeah.
But it's the culture. You have Jalen Hurts. We've already talked about how you would with his intangible. Him being a great guy, him being a competitor, him being a guy that wants to do everything in his power to get better. Well, you have that in Jalen Hurts. But you also have that in AJ Brown. AJ Brown is a fearless competitor. He's a guy that works out religiously. He's extremely dedicated to his craft. And if you saw what he said, he's excited to play. He wants to play with Jalen Hurts. What does that tell you? When a guy like AJ Brown's caliber wants to play with Jalen Hurts, I don't think he's listening to the us Eagles fans that are saying Jalen Hurts sucks. Jalen Hurts can't throw the ball. He obviously knows the guy better than we do. He's around him more. He's his good friend. So I'm going to trust AJ Brown.
Right.
And I'm just saying. And then you also got to say Devonta Smith, look at his work ethic. I mean, coming out of college, there was guys saying that he was one of the hardest workers that they've ever seen. I'm talking top analysts.
So I just had a random thought. I had a random thought, and this kind of goes to George, because I know George, he wants to see Jalen Hurts do well. He's not sure if he can or not. And I was thinking, can this team win despite Jalen Hurts? I mean, some would say we won despite Jalen Hurts last year. We switched to a run-heavy offense. The defense held together enough to get us into the playoffs. Is this team now, because the defense is obviously even better this year, if Jalen Hurts can't take that next step? I mean, we went 9-8 with a middle-of-the-road quarterback by NFL standards last year, maybe below middle of the road. If he doesn't get any better, is the defense good enough? Is the rest of the team good enough on offense running the ball if they had to, that we could still make a run at least to the playoffs, to the division, as a team take a step forward, and then next year we use our picks and get a quarterback? Is this team good enough if Jalen Hurts isn't any better? If Jalen Hurts isn't the guy, is this team any better? Or are we just going to be – do you get what I'm trying to get at here?
How are they not better? Yeah, I mean, if anybody says they're not, you can't –
Even if Jalen Hurts still plays as the 18th best quarterback in the league, are we still a better team? Are we still winning the division? Are we still making a run?
Yes. The answer is yes.
I think that's an interesting question, because then that opens the door up for so much more going into the future even more. If Jalen Hurts isn't the guy, but you're still a really good team. And that's the perfect way. We can compete, we can win, but we can't win a Super Bowl if he doesn't. Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm trying to get at. I want to see what people's thoughts are on that, because what do the Eagles do if
I got to disagree with George. We won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. Jalen Hurts is more talented than Nick Foles.
Yeah, I mean, that's comparing apples and oranges there.
Yeah, but we won a Super Bowl, and so I can't agree with that statement. when I see a statement like that, it's been proven that's not true.
I mean, I would say more like a Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl and a Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl, and they won despite him. The Eagles won because of Nick Foles. You know, winning a Super Bowl despite the quarterback is a little different.
This Eagles roster, to me, if I look at the moves they've made now, is better on paper than 2017 around the quarterback. Around the quarterback. Defensively, they're right there. They have better cornerbacks right now than they did on that team. Better defensive line. Dude, I think that the team. I think this team could win despite the quarterback. That's how good this team. I think.
Yeah, that would be a question. The question wasn't win a Super Bowl despite the quarterback. You know, it's can they win? Can they be whatever? And I understand the sustained success. Look, as a pizza shop owner, sustained success, George, is all I want. When the Eagles are in the playoffs, it don't matter whether they're favored in the playoffs or not. It's good for business. So sustained success has fandom and business-wise, you know, on my side of the equation.
I want another Super Bowl.
Look, hey, we're just trying to have a little fun here today. You know, like I said, I wanted to title today almost Overreaction Monday. Anything we say right now, you can't hold us to it, Jason. Nobody listening can hold us to it come August when we make real, legit, unbiased predictions. Right now, we're just trying to have fun. We're trying to enjoy the fact, you know, that we keep getting better, that Howie's actually having a good offseason again. We just want to have some fun with it and really, you know, let our fandom or energy out a little bit today.
It's social media, Phil. They can absolutely hold us to it.
Well,
and you know they will.
Say at the 46-minute mark of the show, I said, "Don't hold me to it." I don't know. You know, it is what it is.
But they could crop that out.
Well, they could crop it out. Well, I could crop it back in. I got a mouse. I got a laptop. I can crop anything I want.
I know. Like I said, in all fairness and in all fun, I just think I'm just happy as an Eagles fan that this team is better and is moving in the right direction, regardless of if Hurts is the guy or not. Like, I want him to be because I love the guy, but if he's not, I'm willing to admit it and I'm willing to move on. Like, I don't take it that seriously where I get in fights with people on Twitter about it. Like, I like Jalen Hurts. I've said what I believe about him. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And I could care less if I'm right. Like, it doesn't matter. I want this team to win. Regardless of understand, I want them to win. I could care less if Gardner Minshew is behind center.
Anybody watching this show, because this is a Philadelphia sports-based talk show, everybody wants the Eagles to be successful. It's just we all have different plans on how to get there and how successful they'll be this year, next year, last year, whatever it may be. We're all in the same boat. We all wanted our Super Bowl. We all waited way too long for the first Super Bowl. We want one again. We don't want to have to wait, 52 Super Bowls again for that second Super Bowl. I don't think any of us will be around by Super Bowl 104. At least not at my track record. I'm not going to be alive in 52 more years.
I think that would be a good show in the future, though. If we like, what? Just thinking of like a topic, like, is this roster on paper better than the 2017, and like go position by position?
Yeah,
like,
we can do that.
I think it would be a cool thing to do, a cool exercise.
See what shows you're on next week. Maybe we'll take that exercise upon us next week, depending on how the schedule goes next week. Jason, yeah, exactly. George has got to wait. Hey, hold on, George. I Scotty was out there staying up late watching Sixers games till God knows what time when he was out there in England and France.
I didn't say that George wants him to lose. Why is he saying that?
No, he doesn't say that. He's just saying, some people misunderstand George. So
I think George is entitled to his opinions, and he has strong ones, and I respect them. I love George. I miss you, George.
I respect people
Phil,
like George.
Tell George who was the one that asked, "Where has George been?" It was me. Did I not?
We're not starting anything right there. We got to move past the Eagles. Okay, let's just move past the Eagles for a few minutes. We got 10 minutes left in the show, Jason. You haven't been on all week because you're lazy and you don't care about the morning show. I'm just kidding about that too. The Phillies won last night 3-0. Okay. Lost the night before, 3-0. Bryce Harper still out of the lineup with the injection for his UCL tear. I talked about it yesterday. The Phillies. It's time to have some serious, tough questions. We only got about 10 minutes left in the show, so we can only have a short discussion on it. But are these Phillies at a point, are they kind of like in a no man's land with this team where they can't make tough decisions right now? I was talking about yesterday, obviously signing Schwarber might not have been the right move. Keeping Hoskins, bad move. Not proving a lot of different areas. They can't make changes because you can't trade a person like Schwarber yet. But yet they don't have any way to improve this team. This team may have to take steps back before they take a step forward. Is that a tough conversation that you're ready to have with this Phillies team?
It's a tough conversation, but it's a conversation that has to be had. I think that's absolutely where I am with this Phillies team. And that's not just me being Mr. Negativity, because I've been very positive about this team, and when they deserve it. I think they're in trouble right now because Bryce Harper, this injury, it's one of those things that it could really set you back for 2 years if you don't play this right. If you let this guy continue to play and he re-injures it or injures it worse, you're going to be looking at Tommy John surgery. That will take him out. If the longer he waits, that could possibly affect 2023. Are you willing to do that as a fan? I'm not. I think it's stupid.
Dominguez, he missed 18 months with the same injury.
That's my point.
I think that's why Cliff Lee called it a career earlier than he wanted to, because he had a UCL tear.
I'm not going to lie. I am very concerned about the situation right now. And I'm concerned because for a lot of reasons. I don't think this team is ready to contend. I think they've proven that they are inconsistently inconsistent as a roster on the whole. And I don't see them catching the Mets. I think the Mets are just playing lights out right now in the division. I don't think we're going to come close to winning division. I think we're an average at best 82 and 82. Like, that's where we're going to be. And if you know that now, why risk Bryce Harper any longer? Why not just shut him down? Let him.
So I brought up the interesting thought process yesterday. I was running solo, and then I had a text message come through. I had to wrap up quick, so I didn't get through the whole thought process. And we're up against a timeline right now. Time again, so we can't have a deep conversation. Look, you can't trade Bryce Harper, and if you suggest it, you'll get bashed. I know we've done that before. You can't trade Castellanos and Schwarber. It's too soon. I don't even know if they're allowed to. They don't have AAA guys that they could trade. So we talked about when we talked football, can you win paying a wide receiver, Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill type money? So I brought it up yesterday. Can you win when you pay a catcher $25 million? JT Realmuto is really, really taking a little slide backwards. Now, some of that might be the coach, Joe Girardi, burning him out. He's only missed 4 games out of his first 38 games this year. He's played the most games by a long shot of any catcher. So maybe that's why the downslide a little bit. But can you win paying a catcher $25 million a year? You pay a catcher $10 million a year, then you got $15 mil more to work on your pitching, get a center fielder, whatever. Is maybe JT Realmuto, I know he's one of Bryce Harper's best friends, is considering, and I don't know who would take him in that contract, is getting rid of JT Realmuto maybe a smart move for the Phillies to consider at this point?
I mean, that's it. You
tough question.
A difficult question or a difficult conversation. That's definitely one.
It really is.
I'm not really looking at.
He's not performing at a 20. Even last year, he had a good year last year, but that last year was not worth $25 million.
Yeah, but I guess in a world where there realistically isn't a salary cap, it's not like the NFL where I would be looking.
I know, but I say the luxury tax is a salary cap to an extent.
But it's really not, because you can always renegotiate with JT. I think JT, it's a legit question, Phil. I know you would piss off a lot of people, especially women. People love JT Realmuto, but
I love him too.
I don't know if that necessarily would be I don't know if that would help
I'm
the
looking at
team.
the Phillies roster. I'm looking at the Phillies roster, and I'm looking at what they make, what parts of their career they're in, and I'm looking at two names. You need to take a step back, get rid of one or two big contracts, not named Harper, Castellanos, or Schwarber. You got to get rid of one or two of them so that you can then start really reworking this team. And JT Realmuto is number one. Zach Wheeler is number two. They're the two names that a contending team might be willing to take off your hands for a decent prospect.
I would never trade Zach Wheeler. That's just stupid.
Neither would I.
That's asinine.
Well,
Aaron Nola is the guy that I would move, and he still has value.
Yeah, he has value. All right. Take Zach
I'm
Wheeler.
sorry.
Whatever. Either of those, but they're your two best pitchers are what I'm talking about. Moving to
Zach
top.
Wheeler is still young enough that I would not want to trade Mike.
I think he's older than Aaron Nola, isn't he?
Yeah, but I'm saying he's still young enough that it's not like you're gonna have him and say, oh well, why are we gonna keep the guy? Like, you have Bryce Harper long term, right? You have Zach Wheeler for another.
Aaron Nola's 28, Zach Wheeler's 31. So there's about 3-year age difference there.
Yeah, but I'm not going to trade the better of the two. I'm keeping my best pitcher. I'm not going to. That's just throwing in the towel. That's just like, okay, let's rebuild. If you believe in that, yes, then that's the way to go. But I don't think that they're at a. I don't think Middleton will stand for that. They're not in that mode. He wouldn't have went out and signed
JT
or Castellanos. I think if you wanted to really revamp the roster and you wanted to go young, if you put together a package of JT and Nola together, you could probably get a great offer from somebody that's ready to contend and says, wow, we get our best pitcher and a catcher in this deal. You could probably get some massive prospects back. That would be like one of those moves where you're like, okay, well.
I mean, because pitching wise, you lose Aaron Nola. You got Falter, who pitched another gem down in AAA. He might be ready. You could slide him in the your rotation will take a dip if you lose Aaron Nola, obviously.
Fans will be, oh my God, dude, they would be revolting.
You can go get a backup. You can have a catcher by committee situation. I don't know. It's a tough call. I love JT. I am not suggesting that he's washed or anything like that, and I'm not saying I like the idea. But when you look at the roster, there's so many streaky hitters. You need to find a center fielder. You do. You need more starting pitching. You need relief pitching. You've got a lot of money spent in a lot of positions. Maybe not spending that money on a catcher who he's got 2 home runs and 8 RBIs. Based off of the games he played last year, last year was a decent year, not a great year for him, a decent year. Last year, based off of last year's numbers, I wrote it down. I can't find it. He should have 4 home runs and about 20 RBIs at this point, based off of last year's progressions.
It's early still.
It's very early. And he's being burned out. He's being played way too
early. And I agree. I blame everything on the Phillies on Joe Girardi. I just think
if we're an average team and we're not going to make a run, you got to move somebody for something. You got to look to the future. JT's got to be the guy that out of all the guys I'm willing to move from.
Dave Dombrowski, his history shows that he's more so likely to trade prospects and bring in older veterans. I don't see him with him in control right now at the top. I don't see him moving JT because that goes against his dream.
But what I see is you got the young kid at Reading, Logan O'Hoop. He's a catcher. He's a young catcher, and he's having a great season in Reading. And he's slowly climbing up the catcher's prospect ranking list. He's going to be a guy that when the trade deadline comes and Dombrowski, he's not going to move JT. He's going to move the young upstart catcher in your minor league system. And
that's what I mean. And listen, I get what you're saying. No, and I get what you're saying, and I'm not against it. I just don't see it. Once again, you know how you always do your shows prefaced on what would Howie do or what will Howie do. I'm the same way in this situation. I don't see JT getting moved. Do I necessarily think it would be terrible to get rid of him? Not if you could get, a legit prospect back. No. But the problem that I see is that the Phillies don't have really many other options because they don't have a ton of guys in their farm system that are like wanted commodities. People aren't like breaking down John Middleton's door to say, I want that prospect. So that's a problem. Because if you want to fix this team, there's really one of two ways that you can do it. Have a fire sale and trade all your good players and just start from scratch. That's the one way that you could fix it long term. But I would never see them doing that because they wouldn't have went out and signed Castellanos and went over the tax if they didn't believe this team is like a contending team. Here's what I would do. I would axe the manager right now. Like, get rid of him. Get rid of him. Get somebody in here that has more of a baseball knowledge and has more of a ability to manage personalities, because this team is lacking that. They're lacking that leadership from the top in the room. And we talked about it before that Bryce Harper is the leader, like on the field, but he's not the in-your-face guy and he's not calling people out. We need somebody in this organization to step up and start pointing fingers at guys that are not doing what they should be doing.
You know, before last season for the Eagles, I suggested trading Fletcher Cox, Miles Sanders, Brandon Graham, when their value was peaking. You could take a step back, but maybe take step forwards. And I got bashed for it. Look at Fletcher Cox. Had a down year. And now we're stuck with Brandon Graham. He got hurt. Might not be the same. So just with the JT thing, it's just like, I know it's not a great idea. It's not a popular idea. But sometimes you need to make an unpopular decision to take that step back so you can take the step forward. That's all I want to say. And you know, we didn't spend enough time on the Phillies. Maybe I'll bring this back up tomorrow morning as a conversation point to start the show. You know, comparing, trading people at their peak so that you can big picture. I don't know. It's not going to happen. I know. But what would Howie do? What would Dave Dombrowski do? I get that. But that's just where I'm at. And it's just a thought process, random idea that popped in my head that I knew would, not be popular, but, might be necessary.
It's just unfortunate right now that with as much as, with all the moves that the Phillies made, they're still not on the same level as team. But then again, they almost swept the Dodgers, who were the best team in baseball. So that's my point, though. And that proves the theory that they're inconsistent. They can win on any given day and put up crooked numbers, but they can also get shut out, which they did the other night. Now, last night they won 3-0. Like, 2 shutouts, opposite results. Like, Zach Wheeler, I will say, I know we didn't really talk about the game last night. Zach Wheeler looks like he's back as far as, he's finally pitching. Last night he pitched like he did last year. That was really the Zach Wheeler that I really know. And I think that just shows you that he was a little bit, I don't want to say injured, but tired arm, and he wasn't ready. He wasn't fully prepared with obviously the short off season. So hopefully that's a sign of things to come, because if Zach Wheeler can start pitching like that, maybe some of these losses become wins, and then maybe we start kind of seeing more of a trend upwards. But I'm still seeing the inconsistency in the lineup. Once again, they had that stretch, and now you have the guy that I really, and I don't want to say I told you so, but I told you I didn't really like the Kyle Schwarber signing. I just think he's not what everyone.
The guy that said it. I called it the bronze medal signing, and I got bashed. Why am I calling him a bronze medalist and all? It's like you got third place. Yeah.
Can you imagine? Can I just ask the question? Can you imagine if he was the only guy we signed and we didn't sign Castellanos?
We'd be even worse off right now.
Where would we be right now?
I don't even want to talk about that. That's a conversation maybe for tomorrow on the Phillies. But we got to wrap up the show here, Jason, for the day. Again, just a day that we could go on for another 30 minutes, but unfortunately, that work clock in has to happen soon for me. So everybody have a great day here. Thank you for tuning in to Trending in the AM. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow button, retweet button, share button. You know what to do. Every outlet you're watching on, Make sure you're shooting us the follow. I am Phil Stuff, your host at Bearded Knowledge. Make sure you shoot me a follow there. Jason Voorhees over here at Mustang3651. We'll be back tomorrow, Friday. Don't know what we're going to talk about tomorrow. I don't know who's going to be joining me tomorrow. I don't know what we're going to do tomorrow. But we'll be back tomorrow because we're back here every day, 8:30 a.m. Make sure you all have a great day. And we're back to the Go Birds, bro.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
That's right.